Right, welcome back. Today we're working on a 59 Chevy truck hood. It's got some dents on it. We're going to flip it over and get some paint off of the bottom of it, hood, so we can get it ready for paint. Maybe, who knows what we're going to do, some grinding, some sanding, some pounding, and some sandblasting. So hang on, let's see what it takes to get this thing a little bit ready to put some primer on there so we store it away until we get the rest of the truck put together. Alright, what I have here is a hole, a bolt that's stuck, drilled out a hole here. I have one of these removers. A screw extractor. All right, I'm got it kind of cleaned out, but I'm probably going to have to wind up tapping it to get a new bolt in. So I'm going to take off these frames here in the middle, braces, so I can get up underneath there and do some sanding. The latch mechanism, these are 3/8 bolts there, so we'll pull that off. Alright, I'm going to go get some bags to mark those parts. There's a little square nut and bolt for the back, holding this bracket on here. A lot of this out here, I'm probably going to break out the sandblaster now and do a little sanding. Alright, we'll do a little bit of sandblasting on the, run out some other parts too. This is the truck rail, bed rail, and then through the hood here. Get into these little nooks and crannies here that I can't get in good with the sander. So see what I can do here. All right, have the inside of it here all sandblasted. I just have to clean it up and do some touch up. I've got these other parts over here cleaned up, so I'm going to go ahead and just get everything cleaned up, and we'll touch base after I get things, all the sand picked up and swept up and parts blown off here, and we'll look at what we're going to do next here. All right, we're back in the shop here. Woo, man, that sandblasting stuff's some dirty work. All right, got the hood all cleaned up, my sand all cleaned up here. Now there's some dents in here. I had them circled from the other side, so I'm gonna try getting those out. So let me get positioned here and we'll get those out. Let's get those dents out. All right, there's a circle there. So what I have is I've got a sandbag underneath here, help absorb some of that, so and hold the part in place, and just gonna hammer on there. I think that one's good. All right, have another dent right here. See if we can get that out. Alright, I think that's about as much as I'm going to get that dent out. Alright, just flip it over and we'll clean it up a little bit, and I'll start some bondoing. Alright, a change in plan here is going to do a little bit of DA sanding to kind of get some of these paint spots down before I go ahead and bondo it. Guess I need a new pad. New pads needed. That's what happens, I guess, when you hadn't picked it up in a little while. All right, that's enough of that, but I'm going to finish sanding that with something, hand sanding it probably. I won't bore you with that. right, have it got it sanded here, so I'm gonna go bondo up a couple of those low spots that I have to get it smoothed out. And so we'll go ahead and do some little bit of paint thinner here, lacquer thinner. We'll clean up all these areas. I'm going to go ahead and mark them. And mark my spots here so I find them when I'm all right. Go mix up some Bondo. Alright, got the Bondo in place there, letting it dry. Forgot to turn the camera on, but there'll be plenty more. Sure is a miserable day to be working here on the 59 Chevy Hood, but we've got to get it ready so it's not going to rust on there. So we'll finish some sanding on it and get it back inside the shop here and get it prepped for some primer. All right, inside here. All right, have this back in the shop here. We're going to take some lacquer thinner, wipe everything down real good, both sides. Do the underside first, then I'll re-wipe the top, and we'll run some primer on it. Get a good primer on it. It's going to be a tough day here, a lot of humidity and rain out there, but I'm rolling it versus spraying it, so we'll see how it does. Okay, I have the two parts of epoxy primer. I'm using Eastwood mixer, it's a two-part mix on here. Mixed it up, have it in the fridge. Washing it on, we're probably going to do some sanding and stuff, but right now I'm kind of more worried about this really protective metal. In the meantime, I'm not sure when I'm going to get around to being able to paint 100%. This is the best method for doing all this, but I hope I should have planned a little bit better on setting up my paint area. I don't know if you can see me or not, but doing some cleanup. All right, this is what it looks like overall. Probably recommend for anybody to do this in better light. Have somebody with you to point out spots that you're missing overall. But gonna let this dry. We're gonna move over here. Got these steps panels here, a lot of rust on them. I'm gonna put some rust encapsulation stuff on here. Again, I'm just using the Eastwood. You may have something else that you like or think's better. I'm buying it. They're not a sponsor or anything, but been pretty happy with their products. So I'm testing them out. I'll let you know if it all falls apart and rust here in 5 years. All right, I'm gonna mix up some primer here. So just 2 parts. Right, let's get to rolling here. All right, here we have the hood all rolled with primer here. It's drying right now. I think it's turned out okay. I will say probably one thing I've noticed, I rolled most of the top side here, but on the back side, if you're using a brush, you might want to get a better quality brush than the ones that you get from Harbor Freight there. They seem to lose a lot of bristles, so probably gonna have to do, when I'm doing some sanding at some point in time, that's when we'll get those out on there. I've got the side plates here, step side, all painted up with some rust inhibitor on there, so they should be ready to go to sand, do some light sanding and a primer coat on them. We'll do a good underside coat of paint on that, as well as this crossbar. I think that's all I'm going to do today on this here. I might go look and see what other parts I have. The next big component that needs sanding that I have, I believe, are the doors on here, and we'll start doing some engine work. Not a major overhaul, just some little fine tuning on that, but we'll get to that later on in some videos. All right, all in all, I think it's turned out pretty well for today. Thank you for chucking along. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to see more. Not always sure what I'm going to be doing, but doing something. Hopefully it's interesting and you learn a little something.